Emerged today that the Duchess of York sent Jeffrey Epstein a grovelling apology email. Person for Sarah Ferguson claims she did it after the conviction.
Explosive rumors have erupted online after alleged leaked emails.
Well, the latest release of Epstein files have revealed bombshell emails from Sarah Ferguson, the former Duchess of York.
Sparked claims involving Princess Eugenie and disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. Social media lit up with accusations of a hidden child. Yet no verified evidence has substantiated the story. Royal sources dismiss the narrative as unfounded, while commentators question how such sensational allegations spread so quickly. In this episode, we examine the origins of the emails, the credibility of the claims, and the dangerous power of viral misinformation. What is fact? What is fabrication? And who benefits from the chaos unfolding? The email that changed everything. When the latest wave of Epstein files surfaced, the world braced for the familiar, old names, recycled scandals, and hushed rumors that had long haunted public imagination. People expected déjà vu, the same stories whispered in the shadows, secrets everyone thought they had buried resurfacing once more. Yet amidst the predictable revelations, a single email broke the pattern. It didn't just add another twist, it upended everything we thought we knew. Suddenly, the story took a shocking turn, forcing an entirely new question into the spotlight, one that no one saw coming. What was once familiar now felt foreign, and the seemingly settled narrative was thrown into chaos, leaving curiosity and suspicion in its wake. The leaked documents revealed something no one had seen before. Sarah Ferguson, the former Duchess of York, reportedly sent a message in 2011 congratulating Jeffrey Epstein on the birth of a baby boy. At first glance, it might have seemed like a simple, polite note, but its implications were explosive. Epstein had never publicly admitted to having children. His will contained no mention of a son. Official records gave no hint. And yet, here was a message suggesting otherwise. The shock didn't stop there. According to the email, Ferguson apparently learned about the birth from the Duke, widely assumed to be Prince Andrew. Suddenly, a flood of questions emerged. If Epstein had a child, how could members of the royal family have known? And more chillingly, why had the public never been told? The simple act of congratulating a man notorious for secrecy and criminal activity opened a door into a world the public could barely imagine. Just as curiosity and disbelief began to settle in, another document surfaced, darker and more disturbing. It was a victim's diary. Inside, a woman claimed she had given birth to Epstein's child, only to have the baby taken away from her mere minutes after delivery. The diary went further, alleging that Epstein had spoken of creating a superior gene pool, a phrase that sent shivers down anyone's spine. When these pieces are placed side by side, the picture becomes far more unsettling. On one hand, an email celebrating a new life allegedly known to royal circles. On the other, a diary claiming a child was taken and vanished. It raises questions that are impossible to ignore. If this child existed, where is he, or she, now? Who made sure the story was buried, hidden from the public eye, and why? The juxtaposition of these documents suggests a level of secrecy and control that feels almost unimaginable, even for a figure as notorious as Epstein. The implications go even further. These revelations hint at networks of influence and connections reaching into the highest echelons of power. They suggest that the scandal wasn't just about money, exploitation, or manipulation. It may have involved people in positions the public trusts most, people whose knowledge and silence could shape what the world sees or hears. For many, it is the haunting idea that lives, and even innocent children, can be made invisible in plain sight. Every new file released seems to pull the story deeper into the shadows. With each sentence, each alleged fact, the world is left to wonder, what else has remained hidden? How many more secrets are held by those who have the power to bury them? And most importantly, if Epstein truly fathered a child, how far did the web of silence stretch? and who ensured the world never knew? The email from Sarah Ferguson was more than a note of congratulations. It was a crack in the wall of secrecy surrounding Epstein's life, one that exposed the faintest glimpse of something shocking and deeply unsettling. The questions it raises may never be fully answered, but the unease it provokes is undeniable. In a story defined by lies, power, and manipulation, the possibility of a hidden child adds a new, chilling layer to an already dark narrative. How did Princess Eugenie get to meet Epstein? Could she have been linked with Epstein by her mother? Were Princess Eugenie's parents so close to Epstein? Let's delve into the details of Epstein's relationship with Princess Eugenie's mother, Sarah Ferguson, for her businesses to be closed down after his conviction. Inside Sarah Ferguson's Epstein connection. In a dramatic turn of events, 6 companies linked to Sarah Ferguson, the former Duchess of York, are now facing closure as attention intensifies on her connections to the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. Recent filings with Companies House, the UK's official registry for businesses, reveal that applications have been submitted this month to dissolve a series of Ferguson-associated ventures. The companies set to be struck off include Phoenix Events Limited, Fergie's Farm, La Luna Investments, Solomoon Limited, Philanthrepreneur Limited, and Planet Partners Productions Limited. While the exact reasons behind these closures remain officially unconfirmed, the move comes amid growing public scrutiny and renewed media interest in Ferguson's past associations. Observers are now asking whether these shutdowns signal a strategic retreat from controversy or are simply routine corporate housekeeping. Either way, the timing has sparked curiosity and speculation, putting the former royal back in the spotlight. Documents obtained by People show that Ferguson, 66, is listed as the sole director of all 6 businesses. At this time, it appears that no creditors are owed money, suggesting the closures are administrative rather than financial. The exact nature of each company remains somewhat opaque. Phoenix Events Limited is registered as operating in public relations and communications, while Fergie's Farm is described as a retail venture. The purpose or activities of the other 4 companies are less clear, leaving many questions about Ferguson's business portfolio. The closures come against a backdrop of recent revelations regarding Ferguson's enduring connection with Epstein, the infamous financier whose crimes against minors shocked the world. Newly released records from the U.S. Justice Department's Epstein investigation suggest that both Ferguson and her ex-husband, Prince Andrew, remained in contact with Epstein long after his 2008 conviction for soliciting prostitution from a minor. Both had publicly claimed that their ties to Epstein had ended, but the emails tell a different story. One email from May 2010, recently released by the Justice Department, shows Ferguson reaching out to Epstein, describing herself as desperately in need of money and suggesting she could work for him as a house assistant. In another message, dated August 3, 2009, she expressed gratitude to Epstein for assisting with her business deals. "In just 1 week, after your lunch, it seems the energy has lifted," she wrote. "I have never been more touched by a friend's kindness than your compliment to me in front of my girls. Thank you, Jeffrey, for being the brother I have always wished for." These intimate messages reveal a personal closeness that had previously been hidden from public view. The timing of the company closures coincides with a series of legal and personal pressures surrounding Ferguson and Prince Andrew. Andrew, who recently celebrated his 66th birthday, was arrested on Thursday, February 19th, on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Thames Valley Police confirmed they are investigating claims that he shared confidential information with Epstein while serving as a British trade envoy. Ferguson's current location remains unknown, adding to the swirl of intrigue surrounding the former royal couple. Taken together, the unfolding events paint a portrait of a once revered member of the British royal family, navigating a world of legal complications, personal scrutiny, and reputational challenges. The closure of her companies, while perhaps a routine administrative move on paper, now reads as part of a much larger story, one that intertwines business dealings, personal relationships, and connections to one of the most notorious criminal figures of recent times. As more documents emerge and investigators continue to dig, the public is left wondering, how deep did these connections run, and what impact will they have on the legacies of those involved? For Sarah Ferguson, a woman who once enjoyed immense public adoration, the next chapter is shaping up to be as complicated and controversial as any in her decades-long life under the spotlight. After the huge loss, did the Yorks sever relationships with Epstein after his conviction? Did they testify against him or remained loyal? Let's dive into the details of Epstein's access after his crimes. Convicted, yet still welcome. Before we even get into the tangled web of events that followed, there's one crucial fact that cannot be overlooked. Jeffrey Epstein was no stranger to crime. Long before whispers of scandal began circulating in the media, Epstein had already been convicted as a sex offender. By 2008, he had admitted guilt for serious sexual crimes involving underage victims and had served time behind bars for those offenses. This wasn't some minor footnote in a news story. His name had become a lightning rod for controversy, plastered across headlines, dissected by reporters, and condemned by the public. Epstein's presence alone was enough to make people uneasy. His reputation was a warning sign, a signal that he was someone to be approached with extreme caution, if at all. In social circles, in business, even in political arenas, his shadow loomed large. His crimes left a permanent stain on his name. To ignore that reality was impossible. Any discussion about Epstein, any account of the shocking events linked to him, must start with this uncomfortable truth. The man at the center of the storm was already marked by the law and by public outrage. His past would forever shape how the world viewed him and what was yet to come. And yet, astonishingly, reports claim that just a few days after Epstein walked free from prison, Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, allegedly paid him a visit. Not only did she go by herself, but she reportedly brought along her daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. The images this conjures, or at least the thought of it, is enough to make anyone pause. How could someone so closely linked to the royal family, whose every move is scrutinized, maintain contact with a man whose crimes had already been exposed to the world? Why would there be no apparent effort to completely sever ties? These questions alone stirred unease, but the story does not stop there. As more details surfaced, the situation began to look even more troubling. Ferguson, according to multiple sources, was not simply making a casual visit. She allegedly maintained a steady correspondence with Epstein over time, writing to him warmly, sometimes defending him, and at times softening the criticism directed at him in public forums. What might have initially seemed like a lapse in judgment now started to raise an even darker, more complex set of possibilities. Could this have been intentional rather than accidental? Could the bonds she was nurturing have been deliberate rather than merely misguided? Closely connected appearing to align, even subtly, with a man whose crimes shocked the globe sends ripples through public perception. Observers are left questioning motivations and intentions. Was this a moment of personal vulnerability, a misstep born of past relationships or old loyalties, or something more calculated, a connection that raises uncomfortable questions about judgment, influence, and proximity to power? Adding to the intrigue, consider the timing. Epstein's return to freedom came with intense media scrutiny, and the public knew exactly who he was. Any interaction with him, particularly involving high-profile figures like members of the royal family, was bound to attract attention. Yet these meetings and exchanges allegedly took place openly enough for later reports to surface, suggesting a level of boldness or carelessness that defied conventional caution. It was one thing to err privately, but to engage publicly, with correspondence that could be revealed, meant the stakes were higher than most could imagine. Taken together, these pieces paint a picture far more complicated than simple poor judgment. The visits, the letters, the defense of a man so universally reviled, each element adds to a growing sense of unease. What emerges is a narrative that is not only unsettling but deeply puzzling. It prompts an urgent question. How much did those involved know, and when did they know it? And more importantly, what drove them to maintain contact when the moral, legal, and social signals were screaming caution? In short, what first appeared to be a fleeting lapse now seems to hint at something more intentional, something that challenges public understanding of propriety, influence, and the hidden ties that may bind the powerful in ways the world is only beginning to uncover. Where could Princess Eugenie have been involved with Epstein? Could she have been a collateral for her mother's debts? Let's dig into the details of the dependence that probably led to Epstein's secret child: money, power, and quiet dependence. As reporters dug deeper into the story, a striking pattern kept surfacing, one that revolved around money and connections that wouldn't just vanish. At that time, Ferguson was reportedly struggling with mounting debts, struggling to keep up with basic expenses. Now, emails under heavy scrutiny seemed to show her turning to Epstein for financial help, sometimes asking for as much as £20,000 just to cover rent. Other sources suggest Epstein quietly stepped in, providing smaller sums, around $15,000, to help settle bills that had gone unpaid. But the money wasn't the only thing attracting attention. During her visits to New York, Epstein allegedly arranged multiple apartments for her to stay in, a level of generosity that naturally raised questions about what their relationship really was. Each new detail, each carefully examined email, seemed to peel back another layer of a story that blended financial dependency with personal closeness, leaving the public to wonder, how deep did these ties really go, and what was really happening behind the scenes? Whenever money and influence intertwine, the questions quickly become uncomfortable. Was this simply a friendship stretched by circumstance, or was it financial desperation that opened the door to reliance? Some wondered if loyalty was being quietly forged through dependency, a subtle but powerful dynamic that can blur the lines between choice and necessity. Public reaction was swift and unrelenting. Once the emails surfaced, several charities reportedly severed their ties with Ferguson, removing her from patron roles and distancing themselves completely. To the outside world, this was more than a private embarrassment. It was a potential threat to reputation. The fallout suggested that being associated with Epstein, even indirectly, could carry consequences far beyond personal discomfort, touching careers, public trust, and social standing. Meanwhile, attention began to circle back to Princess Eugenie. Observers noted that Eugenie is only slightly younger than Virginia Giuffre, the woman who accused Prince Andrew and later reached a settlement. Online discussions revisited old videos showing Prince Andrew interacting with Eugenie in public, comforting her in ways that, at first glance, seemed entirely innocent. Yet, in the shadow of new allegations, even these seemingly ordinary moments took on a heightened significance. Individually, these clips prove nothing, but in the context of renewed scrutiny, they unsettled many viewers and invited speculation. For patterns, trying to reconcile past for patterns, trying to reconcile past events with emerging information. Even when no wrongdoing is proven, trust can erode quickly if clarity is lacking. This tension between what is known, what is alleged, and what remains hidden creates a sense of unease that is hard to shake. The story also raises questions about the delicate balance of power, money, and personal relationships. When financial support comes from a source with enormous influence, the lines of agency and choice blur. How much of a friendship is genuine? How much is shaped by the silent pressure of owing someone, of needing their support to survive or maintain status? These are questions that journalists, the public, and history itself must grapple with. In the end, the unfolding drama is less about confirmed crimes and more about human complexity. It shows how financial vulnerability can intersect with public life, how past associations can suddenly cast long shadows, and how scrutiny often finds the cracks that secrecy and discretion cannot hide. While Ferguson and Eugenie's actions remain unproven in the eyes of the law, the unfolding narrative is a reminder that in the world of wealth, power, and influence, perception can be as consequential as fact. And in this space, even small actions can ripple into waves of public attention, shaping reputations in ways that are both immediate and lasting. While the content of the Epstein files are being revealed, are there any more serious revelations? What is the public saying about the secret baby? Are there doubts and concerns for verification? Let's find out. Surveillance, silence, and the question that won't go away. As more files and documents surfaced, the story stopped feeling like an isolated incident and started to take on a far darker, broader shape. Social media users began pointing fingers at extended royal relatives, suggesting that even individuals connected to Queen Elizabeth II might have appeared in Jeffrey Epstein's notorious contact books. What at first seemed like a series of poor personal decisions or isolated mistakes began to feel, to some observers, like a pattern stretching across a network of powerful people. Then the discussion shifted from names to surveillance. For years, rumors have circulated that Epstein had installed highly advanced camera systems in nearly every corner of his properties, including his infamous private island. Some online theorists claim that these systems did more than just record. They may have stored footage off-site, potentially in cloud servers. If this is true, the implications are chilling. Who controlled these recordings? Were influential visitors secretly filmed? And most haunting of all, where is that footage now? Even older documents fueled the unease. Emails involving Eva Dubin, Epstein's former long-term partner, painted a disturbing picture. In them, she reportedly invited Epstein to her home while casually mentioning that her teenage daughter and her friends were present. To make matters more unsettling, Epstein was listed as godfather to her children. The nonchalant tone of these messages struck readers as alarmingly ordinary, even in the shadow of such serious allegations. And then the story circles back to the baby. The whispers and fragments of evidence build a disturbing narrative. If Epstein discussed creating a gene pool, if a victim claimed her child had been taken from her, if someone congratulated him on a newborn, and if more than 100 individuals later contacted DNA testing companies believing they might be his children, the question becomes impossible to ignore. Did Epstein secretly father children? If he did, who helped ensure that this secret remained buried? The public's unease isn't fueled only by what has been revealed. It is magnified by the deafening silence that follows each new disclosure. Every new document, email, or photograph doesn't close the case. Instead, it cracks open new questions, each more unsettling than the last. If there is truly nothing to hide, people ask, why does clarity never come? Why does every attempt to uncover the truth hit a wall? Because if these allegations are true, if powerful families protected reputations, shielded money, or buried secrets on a massive scale, then this isn't just a scandal. It's a seismic rewriting of history. It suggests that decisions made behind closed doors by the ultra-privileged may have shaped the world in ways we are only beginning to glimpse. And that is why the story feels unfinished. Every leak, every email, every murmur of a hidden truth reminds us that the real narrative might be far more complex and far darker than the public has ever seen. The pieces we hold in our hands hint at secrets, manipulation, and cover-ups, but the full picture remains tantalizingly out of reach. We are left staring into the void, wondering how deep the rabbit hole goes, and whether the truth will ever surface, or whether it has already been hidden too carefully for anyone to ever find it. In the end, it is not just Epstein himself who haunts this story. It is the network of silence, secrecy, and power that surrounds him. That network, more than anything, keeps the story alive, unresolved, and impossible to forget. Each revelation feels like a shadow passing over a sunlit truth, promising clarity, but delivering only more questions. And so, the world watches, unsettled, waiting for the answers that may never come. So, what do you think about Epstein's secret child? Could Princess Eugenie have truly had a secret child for him? We'd love to hear your opinions in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe.